We just tried to make this video, but it was way too long, so we're gonna record it again. This is the story of,
the birth
yeah,
of the
of
most
Aiden.
wonderful thing that's ever happened to us.
Starting,
We finally had the baby.
yes, don't drag it out again. Starting with the day I went into labor.
You friggin' dragged it out. Let's talk all
Okay.
about, yeah.
It happened the day before I was supposed to be induced anyway. We went,
We'll make this a little easier.
yeah.
She was due on a Sunday. She didn't go.
I was
Of course,
5
you don't
days,
ever really go on your due date.
I was 5 days late, and I was supposed to be induced on the 19th. And on the 18th, we went shopping and stuff because we knew we were gonna have the baby the next day. And we were supposed to go get his brother from the airport.
He was coming in from Florida to come up to Massachusetts and get married. And, you know, he wanted to be here at the same time to see the baby, you know. He was hoping already the baby would be born by then, but, you know.
And the
So-
airport is
So
in
we
Boston.
go, yeah, so he was late coming in, so we're trying to kill time. We go to Target, you know, we
did shopping because...
and we shopped
yeah.
all day, you know, we were up and around, she's walking all around, and, you know, then we go to the airport, we pick up my brother that night, Thursday night.
Which we live like an hour away from Boston, so I didn't like being that far
No,
away
we didn't
from
like
both.
the whole thing, but my brother screwed me at the last second. Hi, Andrew.
But
Anyway,
everybody
so-
told me that if I was gonna go into labor, I would feel crappy that whole day and kind of know that I was gonna go into labor, and I felt fine. So I
We
figured it
just
was
went with
okay.
it.
Yeah.
We just went with it.
So we
So
went and got him.
we went and picked him up at the airport, walked through the airport, everything's fine. We pick up my brother and we're bringing him back to my grandmother's house. Still a half an hour away from our house, but, you know, not that far. So
We were there
we,
for like 20
we get him back
minutes.
to my grandmother's house and we go in, everyone's hugging, everything's good, you know, and, you know, we weren't planning on staying very long. We were only there, like you said, like 20 minutes. And I told everybody, I'm like, okay, you know, we're going to go because we got to be up early. We got to call the hospital, make the appointment for the inducement, you know. Everyone's like, yeah, you know.
So before we left,
Of
I had to
course,
pee.
she had to pee.
I
Of
don't
course,
miss having to pee every 5 minutes.
every
anymore.
5 minutes. This girl had to pee. I mean, it's, of course she had to do that. It was big baby laying on your bladder, you know. So she goes into the bathroom and my brother goes, oh, would you want to break? And she goes, no, shut up, you know. So she goes into the bathroom. She walks out of the bathroom and literally went, oh, honey, by the way, I think my water just broke. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
No
Oh, shut the fuck up. She's
no
like,
one wanted to believe me.
yeah, she's like, no, my water just broke. And I'm like,
I felt like I peed myself.
so she runs back into the bathroom and I'm like, my grandmother goes, what'd she say? I'm like, she said her water just broke. She went, nah. And I went,
She didn't
I
believe
run
me
into
either.
the bathroom. I'm like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, it's pouring out of me. And I'm like, oh my God, all right. You know, it hadn't hit me yet.
So we
The
went,
shock, nothing hit me yet. I was kind of like, I guess, in a state of denial. Not that I didn't believe her, I'm just saying, like, in the state of denial. So I get her into the car, everyone's like, okay, you know, I'm picking up my brother, yay, I'm ready, baby, you know. We get into the car, I'm doing 95 miles an hour all the way back home, you know.
we went
Now,
home.
We
again.
went home first because we
All
picked
our
up,
stuff was here.
all the stuff was at the house. Because we packed everything.
I thought you were trying to make this shorter.
I am. But we took everything out of the car so we could pick up my brother at the airport, so we had to come home first to get all our shit.
And we called the hospital, and the doctor told us to come in.
And at this point now, the shock hit me. I'm freaking out. Now I'm like, and I totally didn't think I was going to be like this. I was going to be the calm one,
Yeah, right.
you know? And so all of a sudden now I'm like, okay. And I'm like, oh, we got this. And I realized at the last second, I didn't pack my own shit.
So
Of
he was
all the
running-
things I remembered everything except for my own shit.
And you still didn't pack clothes.
I packed a t-shirt
Yeah. That was
and a
really
pair of
bad.
socks.
But we went to the hospital at like 11 by the time we got to the hospital.
We got to the hospital. We lived 3 miles away from the hospital, so it was no big deal. We
Yeah.
got to the hospital.
I
It was
still
11
wasn't
o'clock.
having contractions or anything, so that
A
was
few
fine.
minutes before midnight, they did a test on her to make sure that her water did in fact break. It did. They brought us into our own room, and then slowly her contractions began. Her contractions were religious.
And they
Perfect.
hurt.
Perfect. Okay? Every 2 to 2.5 minutes for about a minute to a minute and a half long.
Mhm.
You know, and I watched the monitor. I could see when they were about to begin. I gave her a heads up, and she was like, "Okay," you know. She's holding my
They
hand.
just
I got
kept getting
10 ice
worse.
on my thumb. Okay, I can't bend the damn thing, and she's squeezing the only because they had the IV in
was
this
in my
hand,
left hand.
and this is my bad hand, and she's holding this one, squeezing my hand like there's no
Like this.
tomorrow, and I'm just like, and I'm going through the motions with her. For 9 hours.
Constant.
9 hours. This friggin' trooper went without any drugs, without anything. She sat there and took it like a man. And you know what? Screw that. She took it like a woman because a man can't fucking do that. I'll tell you that right now. I would have been crying like you should see me when I'm sick. I would have been crying like a mother. She took it like a trooper, straight faced, just like, you know, she took it like a friggin' trooper, and 9 hours of this, and then she just finally, she couldn't take it anymore.
No.
And I'm like, please, you know, take
They
the
had me on the
epidural.
bouncy ball, and that was not helping.
Nothing helped her.
Walking didn't help. I just wanted to lay there.
So finally, they gave her the epidural, and
Which I didn't want because
we
it
heard
was gonna fuck everything up.
the epidural could screw up the contractions and the regularity, and it, boy, did it.
Completely
now
got rid of the pain, but it
Now,
fucked
yeah,
everything else
she's now dead to the world, nauseous, and
up. Yeah, it made me
her
vomit.
contractions were all over the place. She didn't feel a damn thing, but they were just
They weren't
all
consistent anymore.
over the place. Big, strong ones plateau for a long time in the middle, you know, at a constant contraction, and just drop. And then there's like nothing for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden a small one, and a big one, and then a small one, and then nothing for like 3 minutes. It was just crazy.
Yeah. So there was another 10 hours of that. They had me on my side, on both sides.
They're
and that
rotating her.
wasn't helping because
They're rotating it. They gave her the
it
ball,
was screwing
this
with the
big
baby's
giant
heart rate.
bouncy ball thing, and then they stuck it on the bed, and then they try to get her to do doggy style, like
Yeah,
on
when
hands
I
and knees
couldn't, I
with
couldn't
the
feel my
ball.
legs.
Yeah, so
That was so uncomfortable. I wanted
She was
to
just
smack
getting-
that nurse. They just kept bringing different nurses in at different shift changes, and
Yeah.
that one pissed me off. That was towards the end though, that they had me do that.
So finally, they come into the room and said that,
That it was going to be a C-section.
and she started to cry.
Yeah.
And she cried not because she was having a C-section,
Because it was
but
finally going to be
it
over
was about
with
to be over.
after 18 hours.
9 months.
Yeah.
It was all about to be over. So they wheel her into the other room. I mean, like from the point they said they were going to give her a
They
C-section.
gave me the
10
stronger
minutes later.
epidural first that numbs you from like your boobs down so that you can't feel the C-section.
Literally after they said 10 minutes after they said they're going to give us
That
the
made me nauseous
C-section,
again.
she was in the room. I had to wait like 15 minutes in
Then you
the
finally
initial
get to come
room
in.
before I could come in. Finally, I come in. We were in there for maybe 10, 12 minutes before, you know, at this point she's shaking. She's coherent-ish. She could understand what you're
I
saying.
kinda sorta fell
Her
asleep,
eyes-
but not really.
Her eyes are closed. She can answer questions, you know, but her body was in shock. She's shaking like a friggin' leaf. You know, she's like,
I heard you come in and then I kind of fell asleep again. And then I woke up when they were shoving me up here
yeah.
and pulling him out. Because I instantly
They-
felt lighter. And then I
All of
heard
a sudden,
him
she's
screaming.
shaking, right? And then all of a sudden, I heard him like a little whimper, and then she's just like, all of a sudden she went, oh.
I felt lighter as soon as it came out. And then I heard him screaming and everybody saying how big he was.
And they
And that was when I
made me
started
wait. I couldn't see
better.
him right away. They made me wait, and I was pissed about that. And we waited. They made me wait
even longer than you.
No. They made me wait like 8 minutes before I could come over and see him. And they were like, okay, you can come and see him now. First thing I did, I got up, I went around the curtain. The first friggin' thing I saw, guess what I see? In a metal pot, sitting right there as soon as I walk around the curtain, was her friggin' placenta with a rolled up umbilical cord sitting right there. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Jumanji. Alright? The scene when they're in the attic and the spiders come out, those spiders with the yellow see-through legs. That's what the umbilical cord looks like. It's friggin' freaky looking.
I didn't get
But I look down and I'm like, I come around the corner and I look down and I went, ugh, and it just kept going. And I look over and I see her all opened up and they're, trying to, piece her back together. And I walk over to the table and I see him for the first time. And immediately you can tell the kid's huge. Okay? I come over and he's just crying away, and the best thing that ever happened to me, because the whole time, before this kid even had eyes, before he had ears, well, he still had a tail, I was talking to this baby. Every day, almost every day, I'm sitting there talking to him. Hey buddy, it's your daddy, all that kind of stuff. I came over to the table and he was screaming, crying, as anyone would be in that situation. I walk over and I'm like, hey buddy, oh hey, it's your daddy. Just stopped crying. His head was looking all around like, it was the most amazing thing. He knew my voice. And, I put my finger in there and he grabbed my finger and, gave it a nice tight squeeze. It was just the best thing that ever happened to me next to you. And then we wheeled him into the initial room that we were in before they wheeled her into the living room, and
so I was still being stitched up.
Then he took a big nasty shit right in that little cart table thing that we had, and I cleaned him up, and they wheeled in the scale. And they were like, oh, don't put the diaper on him yet. We put him on the scale, and he was 9 pounds, 9.5 ounces. Yeah. And he was a monster. 22 inches long. Hands the size, his hands are probably as big as mine. Huge, dude. Russian side of her family, you can get that from me. But everybody immediately said, he looks like his daddy.
Yeah.
One cute motherfucking kid. So now, after the whole day that we went through, then her going into labor, we were up all day, 18 hours of labor. We finally have our baby. At this point, we've been up for 38 hours. We're exhausted. 36, 38 hours. We were exhausted. And now she can't do anything. She just had a C-section. She's groggy. She can't take care of the baby. Not that I would expect her to. I'm just saying that she wasn't able to do anything. She couldn't do anything. So,
until the morning after.
I took care of the baby the whole time, and then. Because you have a C-section, you have to stay an extra day. Normally you stay for 2 days. If you have a C-section, you're supposed to stay for 3. 3 days after the birth. We had already been there 18 hours. And awake for at least 18 hours before that. So, we're now awake for, by the 3rd day, we were just totally wiped. I literally at that point had like maybe 3 hours of sleep, and they tell us right at the last minute, we'll wait for confirmation from the doctor. He was looking at the test, or she, whatever, was looking at the tests, and we're waiting for them to say, okay, you can go home. They come back and say, okay, yeah, he looks a little jaundice.
So we're gonna put him in the machine.
We're gonna give him phototherapy for 24 hours.
So they put him in a big box with bright blue lights, and he had to wear goggles.
And he became very...
The freaking camera shut off because the memory ran out, so we're picking up where we left off.
He became very aware of his hands and exactly how to use them.
He kept wanting to pull the goggles off like that. So
he just went and would rip them down. He can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, if you do that, he's gonna go blind. This thing's friggin' bright. It was making me go blind, for Christ's sake.
It was so bright.
So 24 hours of that, and
having to watch him to make sure he wasn't ripping the goggles off
every second. And so at this point now, at 24 hours finally came and passed, and they're like, oh, well, we want to stick them in there for just another 6 hours just to make sure.
To be sure.
At this point, I'm ready to stick a fucking needle in my eye. You know, and they're like, they checked him over, you know, it was...
Because they had to do the blood test again to make sure.
And he was good, and, you know, and then the nurse that we had overnight was a total fucking bitch.
There was a couple of them that were bitches at night.
Total fucking bitch.
The day ones weren't that bad.
No, the day ones weren't that bad because they were very pro breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And we were trying to do breastfeeding. We were trying to, I mean, the idea was to, you know, to pump, you know. I want them to have the best shit.
Because you're not supposed to pump it until 3 weeks. No. You can't start freezing it until 3 weeks because it's not.
Yeah, but she wasn't producing enough milk to begin with, so the nurse at night was just like, he's not getting enough. His weight's way down. You know,
because your
like,
milk doesn't come in for a couple of days anyway.
So the nurses during the day were like, that's understandable. That's common. Yeah. You know, don't worry about it. You know, the nurse at night was like, this is not good. No, oh. You're lying. You told me I was lying. When I told her what the nurses were telling me during the day, she said, no, she told me I was lying. Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Doing the outrage.
She was the only, she kept weighing him. She was the only one that kept weighing him.
What a mean bitch this was. I mean, at the end of the day, she's used to dealing with a bunch of douchebags, you know. Once I went up to the desk and I'm like, well, can you give me some supplement, you know, some formula? She's like, oh, I thought you were breastfeeding. And I'm like, well, she's planning on pumping, you know. We just don't have the pump with us. She's like, oh, well, okay, you know. She gave us the thing, you know, try to show us how to feed our kid with the bottle. Like, you fucking stick the bottle in his mouth. Yeah. You don't cover his nose, you know. It's not friggin' rocket science, you know, but, you know, we went through the motions with this lady. The next night, his weight had already gone up an entire pound. Yeah. She realized we weren't douchebags, we weren't, you know, neglecting our child. And she was very nice and very supportive and gave us advice and tips and all that kind of stuff. And but at this point, it had, now when we finally did the last 6 hours of phototherapy and they checked his blood test, and now we had to wait another 3 or 4 hours before the test came back. Yeah. And it finally came back and they said, we can go home. At this point, we're at the hospital for 4.5 days. Already 4.5 days after he was born. Yeah. We're there 18 hours before that, plus the almost 18 hours we were awake before that.
I was so ready to go home.
5.5 days. I slept 9 friggin' hours. I slept on the floor for an hour before he would wake up crying again because he was jaundiced. You know, I was exhausted, wiped the hell out. You know, but we got him home, and it was the first 2 weeks of his life. He screwed us. He was awake all the time, and didn't have any type of sleeping pattern, and it was horrible.
Mhm.
Horrible.
He just
And
woke up when he felt like it.
right before he was 3 weeks old, he for almost an entire week, 5 days. It was wonderful. This kid slept 6 hours straight. Wake up, gave him a bottle,
And then fall back
burped
to
him,
sleep.
went back to sleep, slept for another 4 hours. And he's now three and a half, almost 4 weeks old. He'll be 4 weeks old, 1 month old in 2 days.
Yep.
And
it took us this long to make this video.
because we're tired.
Yep.
But this last week he's been an asshole. He has
Well,
not been
last
sleeping
night-
very good, and
Last night wasn't bad.
he's almost acting like, because I've had experience with babies, he's almost acting like he's teething.
Yeah.
That cannot console him, you know.
Screaming.
You stick a bottle in his mouth and he's content. You burp him, he's content. As soon as that whole process is over, he's screaming.
And he doesn't like pacifiers, which kind of sucks.
Yes.
Because
He loves to lay on the floor.
yeah, but he can't sleep on the floor, obviously, so.
But
he
all in
spits
all,
the pacifiers out and
yeah.
doesn't leave them in his mouth.
But all in all, he is a good baby.
Yeah.
And we are very, very lucky, and we are very blessed. He is the cutest goddamn thing I've ever seen in my life. He just keeps getting more cute every day. The cutest looks and the cutest faces. Every once in a while, his eyes will go cross, and he's got this look on his face. It's hilarious. And he looks like me.
Yes.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
He looks like his daddy. So you know he's a sexy little bastard. But we are very, very lucky. Yeah. I have the most amazing woman, and I have the most amazing baby, and I'm the luckiest SOB on the planet. I love you.
I love you.
You're my everything.
Mwah.
Dork.
Shut up.
But that is trust me, the reduced, cut,
Yeah.
edited version of the 45-minute video we made before. So, there was a little more twists and turns, but, you know, who the hell wants to sit through all of that?
Yeah.
I'm sure none of you care all that much, so. But we thank you. And if you know anybody else that's having a baby, you can maybe pass on the video to
Our wonderful video of our story.
get an idea of what they have in store.
Especially if the baby's gonna be big.
It was huge. Massive bastard.
He didn't want to come out.
But we thank you for watching, and
Till next time.
till next time.